Hi, everybody. It's Jim. Great Books, Big Ideas. Thanks for joining me. It's Sunday, December 14th, 2025, and I thought I'd do a very brief reading update for you. I've got one book that I completed that I want to talk about, and then we'll share some active reading that I'm doing right now. You can see that we got our first significant snowfall of the winter, and it's really nice to see the white snow. I think this is more snow. We got about 5 inches, maybe, probably more snow than we've had around here in the last many winter seasons. I can't remember getting this much snowfall lately. Like, this is global warming in action, but we did get some snow this year. I don't know if we're forecasted to get a lot of snow this winter or not. Anyway, it's pretty to look at. It really is nice. And I don't know if those snow is going to stick around all the way until Christmas time. It would be nice if it did, but it gives you a little bit of that white Christmas vibe. Let's talk about this one book I finished. It's a book of sci-fi, the first cyberpunk novel, so to speak, Neuromancer by William Gibson. And this, I think, came out in 1984. And I have to say that this book was a major disappointment. I expected more from it. I wanted it to be better, and it wasn't. My mother always used to say, if you can't say something nice, Jimmy, don't say anything at all. Yeah, that's how I feel about Neuromancer. What nice things can I say about it? Well, it's kind of flashy. It maybe helped to define a new genre. There is a punk aspect to it. It is prescient in some ways about where things were headed in terms of virtual reality. But I couldn't follow what was going on in this book. And I'll read you the blurbage on the back, which is about as much as I got out of this. Case was the sharpest data thief in the Matrix until an ex-employer crippled his nervous system. Now a new employer has recruited him for a last chance run against an unthinkably powerful artificial intelligence. With a mirror-eyed girl, street samurai, riding shotgun, he's ready for the Silicon Quick, bleakly prophetic adventure that upped the ante on an entire genre of fiction. So that bodes well. It sounds like a promising premise. The problem I have, so you've got this sort of like detective type action, cowboy kind of renegade, drug world scenario. It's like kind of like a noirish, like a film noirish type of setup, but an 80s flashy version of that that's like, heavy on the drugs and the digitalization of everything. So fine, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. It's just the execution failed for this reader. I don't know if the fault is mine. It very well might be. I did scan some reviews after I completed the book, and I am not alone in my skepticism about the quality of this book. But a lot of people love it. It's been canonized in the annals of science fiction, so I could be wrong. It's happened before. If you think this is a great book, talk me into it. Let me know in the comments why it's great. I thought it was a mess. I couldn't follow this mission to the new employer who's recruited him for a last chance run against an unthinkably powerful artificial intelligence. I didn't really understand what the mission was. What is this case supposed to do? And I was just flummoxed by it. I kept getting confused between reality and virtual reality. It says, it'll say things like, he's got these things like electrodes on his skin and stuff, and then he jacks in. But then like the portrayal of this, I guess you'd call a virtual world or the cyberspace, right? The cyberspace that he goes into, I couldn't quite visualize it. I mean, it's described in a lot of detail with a lot of jargon, but it just didn't, I couldn't suspend my disbelief. It just seemed to be a mess, like sort of a psychotic dream. And I wasn't sure what was going on. I just felt at sea the more I read the book. The beginning, like the setup was sort of fine. I could follow that. And then we get into the middle where he just keeps jacking into cyberspace. And it's like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. I really do not understand. And I felt like an idiot, like a moron reading this book. But, and I read difficult books. It's not like I don't have a tolerance level for that. Some people have compared his writing to William Burroughs, who I've read a little bit of, like a book like The Soft Machine, the cut-up style, things like that. But even Burroughs made more sense to me in a way than this does. I think Burroughs is a more legitimately avant-garde writer, whereas Gibson is sort of aping that style a little bit, but he's fusing it to a more of like a Pulp Fiction type of plot. But it just doesn't add up for me. I was just terribly confused the whole time, and I didn't like how it resolved. And what am I going to say? Like, it was just a big disappointment. And then here's the other thing. The things, the stories that I was comparing this book to as I was reading it, that I thought might be the most closely allied to it, would be the film Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott, starring Harrison Ford, based on a Philip K. Dick story, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And The Matrix, I forget who directed The Matrix, with Keanu Reeves, as he's in that, right? So especially just the first Matrix movie is the only one I really like, and I like it a lot. I feel like The Matrix and Blade Runner did this so much better than William Gibson did, that you don't even really need to bother with William Gibson. And as I was researching a little bit after I finished the book, I discovered that Blade Runner, the film, preceded the publication of Neuromancer. So this is, praised for being like the spearhead of a new genre of cyberpunk. Well, what about Blade Runner? Blade Runner is basically doing it better than this did it. Anyway, I think you can safely watch Blade Runner and watch The Matrix and dispense with a book like this. That is just my honest opinion. I don't see myself coming back to this. I will mention that on first blush, when you read this, it seems like it's going to be like a film-friendly type of story, but there has to my knowledge, has not been any feature film made based on Neuromancer, and this is 1984, so it's been decades. They just haven't been able to pull it off. But I did read that Apple TV is in production making a series out of this. I might give that a look if it seems like it might be an improvement. I would say they're going to have to do an adaptation of the story, and maybe that will make more sense than this novel did. This novel did not stick together for me at all. I was thinking about the creative writing advice given by John Gardner in books like The Art of Fiction, where he was saying that, plots need he used this term profluence, like this forward momentum driving the plot. I thought that was entirely lacking in this book. There wasn't a causal chain of things. It was just these random scenes, one after the other, and I lost the thread. I couldn't figure out anything. And then the character of Case, I wanted more motivation from him. I wanted to feel his humanity more, and his girl sidekick lover Molly. Also, I wanted more about her. I wanted to feel her. I wanted to feel him, and we just got lost in the cluttered, sort of drug-fueled haze of whatever was going on in this digital world. It just didn't add up for me. So enough said about Neuromancer. This will be disappearing from my household really soon. I'm going to drop it off. I would even walk through this snow to drop it off at a little free library. I'm going to do that. Maybe that'll be my afternoon walk. So, bye-bye Neuromancer. So let's turn to some other books that I'm getting more pleasure from. These are just active reads. I don't know if I mentioned this one yet or not. It's a Penguin Classics edition of The Rainbow by D.H. Lawrence. D.H. Lawrence is not a writer I've read much of. I've read a few short stories, a few poems. I read Sons and Lovers in college and didn't really enjoy that experience a whole ton. This is an early novel by him. It's written between Sons and Lovers and Women in Love. The Rainbow marks an important stage in Lawrence's writing and is in some ways his most ambitious book. I'll read you the summary. Set in the rural Midlands in England, the Rainbow covers 3 generations in the lives of the Brangwyn family, but it is much more than a family history. Using the language of religious experience, Lawrence develops his awareness of the struggle of the individual human consciousness to confront an unknowable, infinite reality beyond the commonplace social self. Suppressed within 6 weeks of its first publication in 1915, The Rainbow has been consistently misrepresented and misunderstood. It is a work of the metaphysical imagination, continually locating the lives of its characters in scenes of the most marvelous and tender realism, but always moving towards a sense of the beyond. That sounds up my alley, and I started reading it. I'm about 118 pages in so far, not too far. The early chapters didn't really grab me, but the last chapter or two, I feel like Lawrence is hitting his stride, and there's some very good writing in here, so it got my attention. I think I'm going to stick with it, and I want to give Lawrence more of a chance. I have several of his novels in the house, and I want to explore him more. He's one of these 20th century writers that I'm trying to read more of his work. So that is The Rainbow. We've also got Arthur Schopenhauer, The World is Will and Ideas. He's still reading a few pages at a time in this one. And I like where he's taking his argument here. Like I'd say the latter half of the book is making a bit more sense to me than the setup chapters. But more on that when I finish it. I would say it's not making it's like any philosophy. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but I try. I'm still reading St. Augustine. I'm slowly I just finished, I think it's book 11 of the Confessions, which is a really long chapter. And I just finished that this morning, and I think I have 2 or 3 more chapters to go. So that'll be finished hopefully in the coming days. And this will be my reread of the Confessions. I've read it once before all the way through. And then I'm also slowly working my way through City of God. I'm up to book 16 on this one. So I still have many more chapters to go, but he's now trying to like encompass all of biblical history, and he's doing this comparison between the city of men and the city of God. And now he's trying to like connect all this biblical history and come up with like a meta, almost, I guess I'd call it a meta narrative to interpret all this. And just the literary interpreter in me is fascinated by what he's trying to do. But he's also gets stuck in the weeds a lot. You know, like for instance, trying to account for like the excessive age of these biblical characters, you know, like Methuselah, who lives for 900 some years, or Noah, who lives for like 500 years. He's trying to actually do the math and make things and explain like what could be going on there. So, you know, there's a lot of pretzel logic involved in the city of God. But I don't think there's another book quite like it, and I am fascinated by it. Then I'm dipping in and out of Tacitus, the Annals, and currently I'm in book 3, so I'm still pretty early into it. He's a really fine writer, and I'm learning a lot. You get just a lot of detail about, currently reading about Tiberius, the emperor, and a lot of the intrigue and the strategies and the military campaigns and the, you know, a lot going on in Rome in those early days of the empire. So that is going well. I wish I was reading this a little bit more consistently, but you know, maybe I'll get back on the horse. And then I started reading a selection of essays by Montaigne for my 10-year reading plan series. And I read the first selection is of custom, and that we should not easily change a law received. That essay didn't really grab me a whole lot, but it was okay. But I had a much better time of it with the essay of pedantry, and I read that whole essay this morning, and now I'm into the education of children, which I know is a good essay too, a longer essay. So it's good to be coming back into Montaigne. I want to do a little bit of comparison of translations too, because if memory serves, the translator of this first edition of the Great Books of the Western World is different from the one they use in the second edition. So I might pick one essay and do a comparison of the translation styles. So that is essentially some of the books that are on the front burner currently. What are you all reading? Have you finished any books this week? Do you have comments about Neuromancer, which for me was a clunker? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you're in the Northeast or other parts of the country where you've gotten some snowfall, I hope you enjoy the snow. I know I do. I did my first round of shoveling this morning and didn't pull any muscles, knock on wood, and I might get out there and dig out the second car this afternoon. Anyway, bye-bye everyone. Hope you come back real soon.